Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm Tony, and this is a place where we talk about all things strange and unexpected in our reality. Today we're going to do a film review, and I have with me today Ron Mason, who's a returning voice and somebody who I love to talk to about all things UAP and paranormal. So, Ron, as we jump into our film today, how is life treating you these days?
Oh, it's fantastic. Christmas season is one of my favorite. Christmas and Easter, Thanksgiving. What more could you ask for?
Oh, I
Family,
know.
friends. Oh, it's amazing. The food. I'm about 10 pounds heavier already. I haven't even had Christmas dinner.
I'm telling you, it's a dangerous but great time. I know.
Fudge. I can't wait for the fudge.
Oh,
Deviled eggs.
crazy.
Mm.
Well, I hope everybody out there's had a great holiday season too. I know we're airing here just after the holidays, but you'll. I just hope everybody's had a great holiday. So, as we jump into things today, we are going to talk about a movie called The Mirage Men. Now, before us deciding to cover this film, I hadn't seen the film before, and I don't even think I remember running across it till we discussed it. So it was interesting. It covers really a lot about two individuals that work for the government, and one works for the government and was what I would call a disinformation agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was, there's a lot of people in this film, but the other one was somebody who got, I think, taken advantage of
Mm-hmm.
because he kind of fell into the trap a little bit. So I don't know about you, this guy, Doty, his name is Richard Doty, I believe. Let's see if I got that right. And he was, I don't know, I kind of disliked him. What were your thoughts about him? He just, he was just being himself, right? But
Yeah.
I was kind of like, you jerk. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking the whole time.
Yeah. I didn't trust. How can you trust him?
Yeah,
And even now, he's going to these conferences now and made this movie. Is he coming clean, or is he still doing a disinformation campaign?
right,
I can't,
right.
you can't trust a word that guy says.
Exactly. So let's set this up for people. So this movie, it's interesting because it talks about the unveiling or opening up of information on UAP, the history of it through the years and up to more recent years, and how a key figure, this Richard Doty, has been involved in many things throughout the years, but has been conveniently for the government, making sure that with every truth that comes out, there are many half-truths and falsifications. So he would make sure that, things were just very muddy, right? What do they say? The best lie is one that's part true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what he was doing. And he was just kind of making sure that he was infiltrating the UAP community.
Community.
There you go. UAP community. He was just getting himself involved in things and really messing with all of that. He said that the information out there is about 80-20. So 80% bad information, 20 good information.
I believe it.
Yeah. I don't know, like the thing, and people will see this when they watch the film, he kind of took a little pleasure and he kind of couldn't hide it. The fact that he was able to outsmart and play this game on people. And I think that's what kind of annoyed me a little bit about him. What were your thoughts about him? What was your impression?
No, you're absolutely right. This guy seemed to enjoy his job a little too much.
Right.
And I want to believe that he had sympathy for the guy when his life started unraveling because of all this. and that
Yes.
he started telling them, trying to tell him the truth, and the guy was so far gone at that point he just wouldn't believe anything he told him. He was convinced already that this is what it is. So yeah, he's not a likable guy. He's a bad character. Yeah.
I know.
He
And
helped destroy this
untrusted.
man's life,
Right. Right.
and that was his
The
job.
guy's,
It's his job. I get it, but
yeah. But
yeah,
he kind of enjoyed it. At least it felt like he was kind of, I don't know, the
yeah.
way he was kind of presenting it. He's just kind of like boasting a little bit. So,
He was kind of look what I did, kind of
right.
get that feeling. Yeah.
Paul Benowitz, that's the guy that a lot of this movie's about too, because for those of you watching and listening, this gentleman was somebody who was kind of a decorated military guy, and he was a pilot and that sort of thing. And he really got pulled into the belief that there is UAPs and that something was happening on a base. And he actually saw some things
Mm-hmm.
and tried to videotape them, but he was, I guess, very good at electronics. He had a company that covered and worked with electronics. So he started trying to listen in on conversations on the base. And I guess he was taking the information that he knew and he started sharing it with political people. Like, this is what's going on. You need to know about it. And then he submitted some information, and what did they do? They sent somebody out to help him.
Yeah,
Called
Doty.
Richard Doty.
He was just doing his civic Doty. Yeah.
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 I don't know. I mean, do you think that stuff's going on now? Because I do.
I do. It's been going on
Yeah.
since the Men in Black. These are just the new Men in Black, in my opinion.
Right.
They've just like we talked about a little bit. They just kind of just changed the way they do it, and they come in and appearing that they're helping you, or that they're working with you. Whereas before they would intimidate you and threaten your life, and now I think I guess they realize that doesn't work anymore, or because of our social media and our ability to share information so quickly that they might get caught doing that
Right.
red-handed. So I think that they've switched it up a little bit on how they do it. It's always been disinformation. They've
Yeah.
always used disinformation.
Yeah. And it really hurt this guy.
Yeah, poor guy.
Paul Benowitz. He gets to the point where, like you were saying, he doesn't believe anything but what he thinks is happening. And he's really losing it. Like, he's
Yeah,
having trouble in every way,
yeah.
just kind of living his life. And his family puts him in a medical psych ward. Um,
Hmm.
1988, I think. And yeah, he's just never the same after that. He thinks he's getting injected by something. They're coming through the walls, injecting him, and then removing him, I think, and then he's being taken somewhere in the desert. Does that sound right? Do you remember that? Yeah.
I don't know if that was something I honed on. I remember him being taken to the medical ward, where they for observation, and he was falling completely apart. And is he still with us? I don't remember. Did they say did he pass?
No, he did. He did pass
He
away.
passed away. Yeah,
He
never
died
recovered.
in no, he died in June 2003.
Okay.
So he still was. He was a wreck, but he still was alive for a little bit after
Yeah.
a
Did
lot
you
of
want
this
to?
stuff was going on.
Did you want to talk about what Doty was saying? He was trying the reason why they,
Yeah.
yeah, why they started messing with him and giving him this disinformation because what he actually stumbled on, and according to Doty.
Yeah. Do you want to lead us on that?
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
sure. Well, Doty said that what he was actually had stumbled on was actually top secret military craft and the communications regarding that. But Doty was kind of convinced that it was he was what he was seeing because he was seeing these flying craft. He thought they were unidentified flying objects,
Yeah.
and so Doty ran with that to hide what he actually truly had stumbled on.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's interesting? Ron. In this film also, Linda Moulton Howe, most people will know her. She's been in the UAP, UFO situation as an investigator for a lot of years. Later in that film, she says, Paul was taping weird things. Apparently she saw some filming of things that were not really aircraft. And so she proposes in this film, and who knows, right? Like we've talked about, how can you trust Doty? She proposes that I think Doty is just tricking him because he's actually finding things out that are true. And he's playing both ends of the story. I don't know.
We don't know because we can't believe the word that guy says.
Yeah.
It could be, either one could be true.
We've also got Bill Moore, which is another person that I think kind of gets played by Doty. He's the guy that he in the film he's giving a talk at one of the MUFON conventions, and he apparently has, maybe this is not the right guy, but there's something about the Holloman Air Force Base and a UAP landing video in the late 1970s. So I think Bill Moore's talking about it, but he's not the one that was making the film. There were these guys that were going to be making a film, and they actually got the military to agree to give them this footage of this exchange between the United States and a UAP. And they actually signed some papers for this film. They start prepping everything, and at the last minute, they pull the film and say, we're not giving it to you.
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what else Bill was involved with. But
Didn't they try to discredit him for the Roswell story?
yes, that's right.
Because was he bringing? That was around the time when the Roswell story kind of came back to life. It was like forgotten for many years, right? Then I think it came back in the when did 80s, 90s is when the Roswell film came, 70s, 80s, 90s. Yeah, resurfaced and brought a new interest.
Yeah, so I think that's about the time because, Bill Moore was doing presentations and stuff, I think in the 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Yeah.
So
Doty got a hold of him too, huh?
Got a hold of him.
Yeah,
started playing him like a flute.
Yeah. Because Doty was showing up to these conferences.
Right.
Yeah. And when they, I guess, there was a part in the film where you saw where the crowd turned on Moore, right?
Right.
When they realized his connection to Doty. Because Doty was known to be, the enemy, right? Or the disinformation agent. I mean, I kind of talked, if you remember anything about that, because I don't remember the intricacies of it.
Yeah, I mean, it went into a lot of stuff, and at first I was kind of watching it, but they were like diving into the weeds there a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was kind of interested, but not so much at the same time.
Yeah.
I just was more kind of like, okay, so he's playing this guy. But yeah, there definitely was, they go into, in the film, a period of time where they're talking about the exchanges and the meetings and different things like that between this guy, Bill. Doty was getting involved. And they suggest there was a lot of communications and connections between them. And so this guy was getting really flooded with bad information or partially bad information. And he was a vocal guy. I guess he had connections politically. He was giving speeches at these MUFON meetings. And so, he was getting out there, and he was a face for a lot of the discussions around the UAP. And they think he had bad information. Like you said, he was getting booed in the one conference where he's giving a talk, and he started kind of, I don't know if he was sharing information that the group didn't agree with, or or it was just solely because they knew he was contacted by Doty. But either way, it was kind of a bad situation.
Yeah, and I think wasn't Doty at that conference?
Mm-hmm.
And he could, yeah, and he was gloating. He had, I mean, I don't know if it's just the way he looks.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about, he just has, I don't know about that. He looked like he was gloating. He did not look sorry about what's happening to this guy. Everything this guy's been building, his credibility in this network, is being torn to pieces right in front of your very eyes. And I don't think Moore ever got his credibility back either, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I
I
think that
mean,
was it for him as far as his credibility. Doty strikes again. That guy's 2 for 2.
and how many others too? Who knows, right?
Oh
Like, I
yeah, that's
mean,
all we know about.
jeez. I thought it was interesting, a very interesting dynamic where that really he's kind of like the villain, and they do this story with him as the centerpiece of the film, and he's in the film, and they
Yeah.
have footage of him, like you're saying, at these conferences. That's, I don't know, that part to me was different. Like for a film like this,
Mm,
it was kind of like, I have to admit, there were certain times in the film where I was like, which way are they going to go with this?
yeah.
Like, is this really a UAP film, or is it or something else?
And why is Doty sharing this? Why is he allowed to, right? Don't they
Right.
usually have disclosure, what do they call these agreements that they make where they can't disclose this information for so many years
Yeah.
without maybe the penalty of being, imprisoned, and who knows what? I mean, because we're dealing with people who are willing to do who knows what to keep whatever secrets they want to keep. I mean, the people have disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So why is Doty allowed to get to do this? That was kind of on my mind during. Should this guy should be like cloaked in darkness with his voice changed, and he's right there in the open, sharing everything that he was paid to do by the United States government to these guys,
Right.
and saying it unashamedly. So I don't even know if what he's telling us is true. I don't know what to believe with this guy.
I know. I'd be interested to see what the audience out there, what you think when you're
Yeah.
watching this. What's your initial feelings? What's your impression of him when you see him, and just his demeanor, and just the way this whole film went about kind of covering. I thought it was interesting that Linda Moulton Howe, at one point in the film, I don't know if you remember this, where they're interviewing her and she stops them and says, look,
Mm,
if you're trying to discredit this and say this is not a real thing, I do not want to be on this film. I don't want to be interviewed. And so it almost made me feel like she was unsure where all of this was going as
hmm.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of skepticism there. And Linda Moulton Howe, I've never seen her do that before. Like you said, she's been
Yeah.
around for years. I've been watching her for years.
Yeah.
She's
And
been
she
doing,
definitely was, she was unclear about the motive of the
yeah,
film, at least at that point.
at that point she was. Yeah. And I think they cleared up her suspicions because she continued at the interview. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm.
I don't know. There's one section in the film, Gabe Valdez is the name of the guy, and he believed that there was an entrance into into a mountain there in Holloman Air Force Base, or in that area. Um, and I guess Paul Benowitz thought, he believed heavily that there was UAP, UFO coming in and out of there. But this guy says he did see an entrance into the mountain at some point. But it
Hmm.
wasn't exactly where Paul Benowitz said it was. I wish they would have dived into that a little bit more, because my
Yeah.
question would have been like, well, was it really an entrance, or something else, like a not a secret entrance, but just really a driveway or something going into the mountain? But they never
Yeah.
went there.
No. I mean, this is a base, right? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of bases have underground facilities, and
Yeah,
so it's not too much out of the realm of possibility that they would have vehicles possibly underground. Now, flying
yeah,
in and out of them at high rates of speeds, I mean, that's That's a different technology, obviously, that we're not used to seeing. But I could see having, military capabilities being stored underground that they could use a mountain to hide it in and to protect it, even possibly.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. I also thought it was interesting. Tell me if you remember this. This Gabe Valdez guy, he's being interviewed and he's talking about, because there's a section where that Linda Moulton Howe was getting involved in a lot of cattle mutilations.
hmm
They bring this guy in and they're asking him about cattle mutilations also. And he says, yeah, there's cattle mutilations. I saw it. But I also saw gas masks from the military
mm.
and also tranquilizers left behind. Once again, I'm in this film going, are you supporting this? Are you debunking it? What are you really saying here? They kind of played both sides of the fence on this film.
Yeah. What would be the purpose of the military to do that?
Right.
There's a movie, Joe Beth Williams, like I said, it was in the '70s, and it was about the cattle mutilation, phenomenon. And in that movie, and I can't remember the name of it, there was actually unmarked U.S. Military helicopters. Ended up being the military. It ended up being responsible for the mutilations. And I haven't seen the movie in 35, 40 years. I don't remember, maybe even 50 years. I can't remember. This was a 1970s movie, before Poltergeist came out, because she was in Poltergeist, the mother in Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that old, or it was around that time. Maybe it was right after. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. But maybe there was something to that.
Well, he did say, shortly, it was very brief in the film, he talked about black helicopters. And I don't know if you remember, he says they had no markings, of course, but
Mhm.
they were fast, quiet, and they had lots of lights so that they could pretend to be
Yep.
UAP. You
And that
remember
was the
that?
same thing in the movie. They did the same thing. That was it.
Did
They were
they?
mimicking. They were trying to. They were doing that for that very reason. They did the same thing. So I
Hmm.
wonder if somebody knew something that made this movie. They just had some information, or their theory was right on. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I do remember this coming up in the movie too. They spent just a few minutes on it. It was called Project Gas Buggy. Do you remember that? It's easy to forget that actually. It was an underground nuclear detonation
Mm-hmm.
in 1967 near Dulce, New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
to try to release gas reserves in, subterranean. And they said the cattle mutilations they were a covert program to monitor how radiation had leaked out into the ecosystem and to the food chain. That's logical. I mean, I can see
Yeah,
them doing that actually. So
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I wonder and if that is the case, I wonder what they found, and if they found that it was bad, then why are we still eating them?
right. And how come they kept that so quiet? Well, we know why they would, but yeah.
Yeah.
Project Gas Buggy.
Mm.
Weird.
And he said too that all it ended up doing was radiating the gas, underground gas, subterranean gas reserves, right? So they couldn't even
Right.
use it.
They couldn't even use it.
That wasn't well thought
Yeah.
out.
Not at all. Yeah. One time, sometimes I think our government just tries stuff and hopes it turns out all right.
Yeah. Yeah, let's send a monkey to space and see what happens.
Right. I'm trying to think. Well, let's see what else is in this movie. This is. I
Oh,
got so caught up on the Doty thing, but they actually did have a few other things like this.
yeah.
Um,
Doty, there was a main. There was a main. Let's see if you have anything else. How about the reticuli, zeta reticuli exchange program?
yes, that's right. You want to talk about that for a minute for us?
Uh, I mean,
It's a crazy one.
it is a crazy. Yeah, how they were saying that this program had basically a student exchange program between aliens and our astronauts.
And it's called Project Serpo.
Is that what it was?
That's
Project
it.
Serpo?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Serpo. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, no. I mean, that's just a surface thing. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's. Remind me. I remember how much you remember about that. Were they saying that our astronauts were going to their, you know,
Yes, there was some astronauts, not the ones that we're probably all aware of, that have done some kind of exchange program to visit Zeta Reticuli.
okay.
And when they came back, there was pictures, and they said it was real, whoever. And then they asked, because there was documentation they found, right? So they asked Doty, did he have anything to do with this? He says, oh no, I don't know anything about that. I'm not even aware of that. Once again, is that a lie or is it true? Because later on in the film, they say one of the inspectors or researchers found one email chain linking to Doty.
Yeah. So. Surprise. Another surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't, honestly, I mean, even the most ardent UFO, believer who wants all these things to be true has to have some serious skepticism. Anything involved with this guy once they see this film. Or maybe they already know about him and they haven't seen this film, but this is further documentation that I can't trust anything that this guy's involved in. This could have been like, there's some people out there that believe we never went to the moon and everything was staged and all the moon landing photos and everything is all done in a Hollywood set, right, or whatever, right?
Right.
Martin Scorsese, whoever the director was, they said that was helped with that. Photos photos of what? I mean, that could have been taken anywhere. Can we trust that?
And where are they?
Where are they?
Where are those pictures? So who even knows?
Where's the astronaut? I mean, where's film of him talking about this? They would have. I mean, they have their archives. I'm sure that they. So no, I don't give it. I don't give that program too much at all. I'll flunk that one as an F. I don't trust it.
There's also one where they talked about genetically altered humans. It was short. That was in the film too. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, at least for me anyway, I got caught up in some of the stuff, but there were little nuggets of other information in the film that are probably worth people paying attention to. Hearing this here, though, they can know that there's a few other little stories like that they could probably glean something from.
Yeah.
Might be true, might not be true, but they're different stories for sure.
Yeah, these guys take lying to a whole different level, just like many generals or even just businessmen read The Art of War, right, by Sue, right? These guys seem to have opened up Genesis 1 and looked at the Satan's method of lying.
Right.
The greatest liar. They just find out who the greatest liar is of all time and just follow his.
Right. Let's follow his path. Yeah.
And they are so deceptive, twisting words and these people's minds. That poor guy. I feel he's passed, and I hopefully he's in a better place because the way he ended his life. I mean, he went from being a very successful businessman who just happened to tap into something he didn't know, asked a few questions, looked around a little bit, and they destroyed him. Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know. So, what do you think about this film?
It was a good.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I mean, I enjoyed it while wanting to throw my popcorn at the screen every time Doty's face popped up. Right?
Yeah.
Because how that's just pure evil in my. I don't care how much money you pay me. Just fire me. I can't do that to somebody. Fire me.
Right.
I'll be a janitor. I'll work fast food. I'm not going to hurt somebody like that.
Yeah.
And then to go around gloating about it.
It's a different kind of person for sure.
It takes a sociopath. I think you have to be a sociopath to do that to somebody, and some people would probably do for free.
Probably.
But no, I thought it was a decent movie. I thought it was full of a lot, the information. It was well made. You had some big hitters in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think I know I give it a lot of 3.5, don't I? I'll give it I would say I'll give it a 3 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's parts of me that want to rate it lower than a 3, but it's going to be a 3 for me as well. And I think the parts that want me to rate it lower is just it just was a bizarre film. Like it was I just couldn't tell sometimes which direction they were going to go. But maybe that's the charm of it, Maybe that was the intention, is to keep people wondering what am I watching, a debunk, or am I watching, something else? And so
Yeah, it was kind of like being that poor guy, right? You
yeah,
wasn't sure what to really to believe yourself watching this movie. I felt not disoriented, but confused. Like you're saying
yeah,
a little bit. Where is this going? Uh, how's this going to end? Uh,
yeah.
that
I
was
don't know. So just as a recap for some people: Richard Doty, Paul Benowitz, Bob Durant, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan was in this film, which we didn't even talk about.
Yes.
Bill Moore, we spent some time on him. Gabe Valdez, who's he was a highway patrolman in Dulce. Dr. Christopher Green, Mark Pilkington, which is an author, and I think he made this film. He's also, I think he's come out with some other UAP books. Walter Bosley, they spent some time talking about the FOIA process, Freedom of Information Act. Peter Gersten, George Hansen, and then Robert Emengar. I don't know. I'm sure I got that wrong. Anyway, quite a few people that got interviewed in here. So,
Yes.
these are all people that are involved in the UAP, and also professionals. Some are lawyers, filmmakers, authors, stuff. So,
Yes.
yeah, there you go, everybody. Mirage Men, also found on Amazon Prime. So, give it a check. Anything else you want to say about the film?
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I will say. Prepared. I mean, it's worth the watch though,
It is.
because I think people. Doty gives us an insight, which we kind of already have an idea of what they do. But he really, I mean, if I have to give him that, I have to give him that he did give us an in to how they work on people.
Yeah.
And how far they're willing to go, when they think you're a threat to whatever it is they're trying to keep from being exposed. So.
That part is true, and it is going on. For anybody paying attention to just the struggle that's going on right now between Congress and, people like George Knapp and others that are trying to get more disclosure going on, there's a real struggle. So it reminds me of what's going on behind the scenes to really make it more difficult. You're right.
And I think there's really, I get it. The government has to protect certain secrets.
Right.
There's certain things that we can't let other countries know.
Yeah.
And because if we know, they're going to know. Because how many people do you know can keep a secret?
And that's right.
So I get it to a degree.
Yeah.
But I think, like if I see something, like, what is that? And I go around and start a podcast about it, or I go to the news. If I was them, I would just ignore him. Oh, they'll just think he's crazy, or just let them think what they want.
Right.
I wouldn't go as far as they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again,
Very true.
I'm not hiding top-notch secrets that if our enemies found out, we could lose.
You make a great point, though. I mean, in the film, actually, at one point, somebody says this. They say, I wrote it down, but I can't remember. Something about being a patriot.
Mm-hmm. I've never seen that in your notes.
Yeah, something about some people who are involved in this disinformation would consider themselves a patriot for protecting secrets. Kind of what you were saying, and we know it's true. I
Yeah.
actually think most people recognize and would say certain facts are militarily important and otherwise, but if we can just know that they're real and then show us something, I think that's enough to get quite a few people satisfied.
You would think, right? You
You
would
would
think,
think.
give them just a little taste. These things are
Yeah.
real. This is all we can show you. If we can, if we, and maybe in the future, if we're able to, we'll give you a little bit more. But yeah, you guys aren't crazy. Yeah, that would probably go a long way with some people.
I think so. Yeah. Well, all right. Good film review. Once again, Mirage Men. Check it out, people. And in your daily life, remember, there's a lot of strange and unexpected out there. So remember to keep your eyes, ears, and minds open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.